I'm not only looking at a very skillful theater producer, but I'm also looking at a man who has real talent in finding the niche in which you can survive and continue, as opposed to some artistic directors who go, no, I don't want a niche, I'm doing this, and they hit reality or low ticket sales or whatever. But your skill seems to be morphing and finding the place where you can keep the ship moving forward.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I
And
think.
where did that come from? Poli Sci? What, stage management courses at NTS, or your
No, I think
fishing
it just
business
comes from
father?
your natural instinct of how do you get up in the morning and what are you going to do and how are you going to get through the day. It's just, if it's a job, if this is the job you're doing, this is the job you've picked to do, and you're getting skillful at it, then you keep doing it. And I think part of the reinvention would be finding new ways to explore what it is that I enjoy doing it. I like doing it. I was energized by it. And also I was...
And that's the difference. You're energized. I've seen it wear down artistic directors who are just exhausted, but they're probably fighting more battles. But you seem to be energized by these challenges.
And I think that comes from the people I worked with, that I was blessed to have people around me that were equally passionate, equally excited about doing the best theater that we could. A lot of our people that lasted as long as I did, were there.
You're talking staff, board, general
Staff,
manager, or
yeah, not necessarily
actors,
the board,
designers?
but definitely staff. Yeah,
Staff.
and theater artists. Janet Wright's career expanded the whole time that until she passed away, that I was running the company. And people like that, like I mentioned, Marcia Sibthorpe and Alison Green and Ted Roberts. These are all designers, and the contribution of people like them was very important, because it's all very well to pick a play, but how are you going to do the play, right? So even if I'm directing the play, I still need someone to design it. I'm not a designer.
But to be truthful, I'm not saying you're not being truthful. To be truthful, the theater practitioner's relations with the artistic director or whatever are twofold. One, hey, I may really like you, and we have a bit of simpatico here, and we're working on something together. The other half is, he always hires me. Of course I love him. So there's kind of a dual thing there. And I have that with some ADs. I really like them because they keep hiring me. And others, I actually do like them, and we share a kind of vision. So the people that were coming along with you,
I think they shared the vision.
They shared a vision of what you were
absolutely.
doing.
Yeah, because otherwise, they could work anywhere. They were skilled enough and did work anywhere. So it wasn't as if I was the only one asking them or hiring them or whatever. But I think they understood the vision. They understood the uniqueness of what the operation was like. And part of that is that I decided that we should also be a production house, that we should build our sets, that we should design and build our costumes, that we should build our props. And so when we got to Granville Island, in fact, even before we had the Granville Island stage, we didn't acquire, but we squatted in another warehouse on the island, which is still there, which is now the production center, and built the sets and had a costume shop and had props. And then I felt, in that way, we're able to create our own shows without worrying about somebody else is going to build the set or somebody else you have to hire to do the costumes. And I think that gave a kind of ethos to the way the company operated, that it became like a production house, that that we were in control of basically our destiny, that nobody was going to tell us that we had to do this or we had to do that. Yes, I had a board of directors, of course, and if I'd failed, year after year after year, if I'd failed and we were in serious debt, I wouldn't have been around. They would have said, forget it. Thank you, Mr. Miller. That was very pleasant, but we're moving on. So I think I was just able to, in some ways, keep one step ahead of any kind of impending disaster. And you know, it was true that you know, you were looking at a season that wasn't going well, and I was very loath to plan ahead. You know, I would plan maybe a couple of months ahead. I wouldn't plan way ahead basically until the mid-90s, when it was clear that I should be thinking a little further ahead than next month. But then I had the opportunity, the flexibility to say, okay, we've now got to find a play that's going to be really popular, because we're facing, you know, a debt perhaps. So, and again, I was assisted by, as I mentioned, the success of the cabaret during the 1980s into
So
the
you're
early
also
1990s.
a seat of your pants guy.
A which?
A seat of your pants guy.
A little bit, yeah, definitely, yeah. In fact, that was, people would accuse me of that. Yeah, you're quite right. And I mean, it proved us, and you know, I was able to find people like Dean Regan, for instance, a song and dance man, but somebody who had a vision of the kind of musical reviews. I hired him first as a performer, and then he and I got to, you know each other, and then I hired him to direct Ain't Misbehavin', and so I could tell that he was an imaginative director, choreographer. And then he came to me with ideas for shows, and one of the ideas he came was a show about Patsy Cline, and I said, sure, put it together, tell me how you see this working. He did a workshop, we funded a workshop, we put it on, and ran a couple of years. So it was having relationships with people like that I would then encourage Dean, well, what is your next show? What other shows do you have you know, up your sleeve? And he came up with Red Rock Diner, which was based on a DJ in Vancouver that he went to school with, Red Robinson, a really well-known local DJ in the 50s, 60s. And Dean devised this show that was about this disc jockey and having being a host at a school dance. And he hired Michael Bublé. So again, right, it's those kind of lucky things that help, you know, when you talk about reinventing or keep going.
And when you did Billy Bishop Goes to War, John Gray, did you know John beforehand? Or
we didn't. You
didn't do that?
We didn't premiere it. No, that was premiered at the Culture Center.
Oh,
Chris Wooten
okay.
did that. We did present it, and I knew John Gray and I knew Eric Peterson.
Right.
I hired Eric Peterson in the 70s before he moved to Toronto, so I knew them both. But they developed that.
So wait a minute, they developed it there and then they opened it here?
No, they opened it at the Culture Center.
Oh,
yeah.
they did, okay.
Yeah.
And you saw it and went, hey, I'm going to get that show? Or you pulled a Murphish and said, come on over to me. What'd you do?
I know, I think
I should say pull a Murphish. David Murphish is amazing, please.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, it was funny that because I was a big fan of everybody doing well. I really felt when the Playhouse had a good show and we had a good show, and if the Culture Center was doing Billy Bishop or whatever, the Culture Center didn't really produce much. They did produce that, but they didn't really produce much. But it really did help the theater ecology of everybody. And so that, of course, was why when the Playhouse folded, there was such a kind of depression that we thought, if it can't, you know, continue to exist, even though we knew why, you know, you feel you've lost something in the community. And it's taken a while to, I think, for the community to come around to the fact that it's over 10 years now, to deal with it. And I think from our point of view, it was because by then we had the Stanley Theatre, and there was some at the Playhouse that felt when we opened the Stanley Theatre, it caused some of their audience to leave. I don't believe that, but.